What if the snowy fairy tale you thought you knew, Disney's beloved Frozen, actually began as something much darker? Imagine a tale of two sisters struggling with chilling powers, cursed hearts, and a ruthless winter queen lurking in the shadows. Sounds a bit too haunting for a children's musical, right? Well, buckle up, because behind the sing-along hits lies a legacy of frosty magic and fear. Let's unravel the icebound secrets together. Welcome, everyone! You might have grown up humming Let It Go, or you've at least seen Disney's Frozen enthrall kids and adults alike with its frosty magic and heartwarming tale of sisterhood. But what if I told you there's an even older, and perhaps more haunting version of this story? In Disney's version, we meet Elsa and Anna, the two royal sisters from Arendelle. It's a cozy story of sisterly love prevailing over magical mishaps. But step outside the warm glow of the Disney castle and you'll discover a parallel legend, one filled with dangerous magic, sinister powers, and moral complexity. Today, we're peeling back the film's sparkly veneer to examine the original inspiration behind Frozen. We'll explore the darker narrative in a cinematic retelling and then dive into some surprising differences between that and Disney's Happily Ever After. Ready? Grab your popcorn, frozen or otherwise, and settle in. Here we go.
The first snowfall came early that year, carried on winds that whispered of change. In the northern village of Ravenholm, where winter stretched its fingers long into spring, two sisters lived in their ancestral home. Astrid, the elder, with hair like starlight and eyes that held secrets, and Mari, whose warmth could melt the deepest frost. They weren't always divided by silence and closed doors. Once they had been inseparable, until the night Astrid's powers manifested. Unlike the gentle winter magic that ran in their family's blood, the ability to predict storms or ease the harsh bite of frost, Astrid's gift was raw and dangerous. A single touch could freeze a living heart. The sisters' parents, desperate to protect both their daughters, had taught Astrid to suppress her power through isolation. "Control it," they'd whispered, "or you'll become like the Winter Queen of old, a being of pure ice, devoid of humanity." But they died before teaching her how, leaving only their warnings and a pair of enchanted gloves. Mari refused to accept their separation. Each morning, she knocked on Astrid's door, remembering the sister who once braided frost patterns in her hair. Each night, she whispered stories through the keyhole about her day, about the village, about anything that might coax a response. Everything changed when Mari announced her engagement to Eric, a charming merchant who had swept into town with the autumn traders. Astrid emerged from her self-imposed exile to attend the announcement feast, her hands safely gloved. But as she watched Eric interact with her sister, her magic stirred uneasily. There was something wrong in his too perfect smile, in the way his gaze never quite met Mari's eyes. That night, Astrid discovered the truth. Eric was no merchant, but an agent of the Winter Queen herself, a being who had ruled the far north for centuries, stealing the warmth from human hearts to maintain her power. Mari was to be her next victim, chosen for her exceptional warmth of spirit. Astrid faced a terrible choice: remain safely isolated and lose her sister, or embrace her dangerous power to save her. In the end, it was no choice at all. She removed her gloves and set out into the eternal winter of the far north, leaving behind a single frozen tear on Mari's windowsill. Mari awoke to find both her sister and fiancé gone. Following the trail of frost-rimmed footprints, she began a journey that would test every measure of her love and courage. Through forests where the trees whispered warnings, past caves where trolls offered riddling advice, she pursued them. Each step north brought new trials: ice wolves that spoke in human voices, bridges made of aurora light, and villages trapped in eternal twilight. In the Winter Queen's palace of blue ice, Mari finally found them. Eric stood revealed in his true form, a hollow shell of a man, his heart long since frozen. And there was Astrid, locked in magical combat with the queen herself. Two forces of winter clashing in a storm of ice and snow. The Winter Queen had underestimated one crucial thing: the power of a love that had survived years of closed doors and silence. As Mari rushed to her sister's side, her warmth became literal, melting the Queen's defenses. Astrid's power, guided by love rather than fear, struck true. Together, they shattered the ancient curse. The Winter Queen dissolved into snowflakes, her centuries of stolen warmth releasing back into the world. Eric and others like him were freed, though the years they'd lost could never be reclaimed. As for the sisters, they began the long journey of healing their relationship, understanding that true love meant accepting both the warm and cold within each other. In Ravenholm now, they tell this story when the first snow falls, how the deepest winter can preserve love like a flower in ice, waiting for spring's thaw, how isolation breeds fear, but connection breeds strength, and most importantly, how the warmth of an open heart can survive even the coldest storm. Astrid still wears gloves sometimes, when her powers surge with her emotions. But now, Mari helps her sister learn control through acceptance rather than fear. Together, they protect their village from winter's harshest edges, their complementary powers creating a balance of warm and cold, like the first day of spring kissing the last day of winter. And if you listen closely on snowy evenings, you might hear their laughter carrying on the wind, as Astrid crafts ice flowers in the air, and Mari catches them, letting them melt in her warm hands, no longer divided by closed doors or frozen hearts.
The tale you've just heard, The Winter Heart, whispers to us from a world far removed from the bright musical kingdom of Arendelle. While Disney's Frozen is often described as being loosely inspired by Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen, what truly lies beneath the glittering ice of the original folklore is something far more chilling. In the lands of old Ravenholm, magic wasn't a spectacle of sparkling snowflakes and ice palaces. It was a force to be feared. One misstep could mean death. Astrid's power wasn't just an internal struggle, it was a constant dance with mortality. Each frozen heart, each icy blast carried consequences that couldn't be undone with a simple act of true love. Where Disney gave us Elsa, misunderstood but ultimately good-hearted, traditional folklore presented us with the Winter Queen, unapologetically malevolent. Her cruelty wasn't born from fear of her own power, but from a deliberate choice to sustain her immortality. The snow that fell from her fingertips wasn't beautiful, it was deadly. And what of the sisters? Yes, both tales center on sisterly love, but the emotional chasm in our traditional story runs far deeper. The reconciliation isn't achieved through a single selfless act, but through years of mistrust, social isolation, and confronting magical terror. The bond is tested not just by distance, but by genuine fear of what one sister has become. Some say Disney has sanitized these complex stories, turning morally ambiguous characters into either heroes we cheer for or villains we laugh at. They argue that in smoothing away the sharper edges, something profound is lost. Lessons about consequences, about the steep price of power, about facing true despair before triumph. But isn't that the beauty of fairy tales? They evolve with each retelling, reflecting the hopes and fears of each generation. Perhaps Frozen is simply the latest turn in a centuries-long narrative, a story that continues to shift and freeze and thaw with each new audience. Where do you find yourself? Drawn to the playful melodies and uplifting resolution of Disney's creation? Or does your heart secretly yearn for the icy winds and darker magic of the more traditional tale? Either way, there's no denying the transformative power these stories hold, whether told around a warm hearth in Ravenholm or inside a bustling movie theater. Thank you for joining us on this chilly exploration of the story behind Frozen and its stark contrast with deeper, darker origins. Until next time, keep an ear out for those frosty winds. Sometimes, the fairy tale isn't as simple as a princess belting out a tune. Sometimes, it's the echo of a frozen heart seeking warmth in a perilous winter night.